All right, we are live. It is good to be back. Welcome to another episode of 10 Horse Money YouTube channel, Monday Night Live. Man, it feels like it's been forever because last week I was in Utah, so we didn't have a live stream. And when Jonathan showed up, he's like, "Man, has it been just 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks?" And no, I'm like, "No, we just missed one." It just
feels like it's been longer than that, though, for sure.
It feels like a long, long time. So
you were in Utah. I was coaching Little League, so it's been a long couple weeks.
Yeah, Utah.
I think it makes it longer for me because I haven't been on the water.
I haven't fished in. Well, it's been a week and a day, but it seems like it's been a long, long time because I didn't take. It's the first time I went on a trip and didn't take like my fly rod. Usually when I go out west, I take my fly rod, but I didn't take it at all. It was just like straight up family vacation thing.
It was 2 Sundays ago.
Yeah,
not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before.
Gotcha.
That's
so
too long.
On the other end, we've been sitting here chatting. We got Isaac on the other end, man. What's going on, dude? How are you?
No, not much, man. Not much. I'm doing good today. Doing good.
You ever?
It's a good day when I can be on the show, right?
Yeah, man. We're happy to have you. Happy to have you. We're always talking about Cumberland Pro. It's good to have the man behind the scenes on here.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
You ever been to Utah or out west anywhere?
Yeah, I've been out west. I actually went to high school in Sturgis, South Dakota.
Okay.
Really? Yeah. I've lived in Montana. I've been out west. I've been all over out west, but I don't think I've ever been to Utah. Been to Wyoming, the Dakotas, Montana. Never been to Utah.
Yeah, this was our first trip out there. We've been to Colorado. We've been to Glacier National Park, and Utah just came up, and man, it's beautiful. I definitely highly recommend it. Anybody that's on here that hasn't been to Utah, go check it out. It's kind of, I didn't know that Zion is like the top 5 most visited park. One of the top, I think it was in the top 5 most visited parks in the United States. I had no idea. And after going out there, I see why. It's just, it's beautiful. It's weird though. It's not like Rocky Mountain National Park because it's like a highland desert. So it doesn't have like the water. Like Colorado's got all the water and the rivers and stuff. You get up there in Utah, and it's like a highland desert. You're up high, but it just doesn't have the water flow like some of the other places. So that was probably the only thing that was not, I don't want to say disappointing, but I would have liked to see more water. I like to see trout and stuff swim around. Good place to visit. I wouldn't want to move there just because of that, but it's mind blowing. Everything's just big, and you just, you got to really stay on your feet because you constantly, like when you're walking up those trails, you're constantly just looking up at these huge peaks and stuff. And if you step off the trail, you're falling like 500 feet almost instantly. So there's several times my wife was like, you need to be looking down, quit looking up, look down, because you're.
Did you have a little rope attached?
She's like, you're the one driving me around. I need you, so I don't need you to fall off the side of the mountain.
Did you have a little leash attached to your waist?
But I had one of those hiking sticks, and when it would kind of go away, I would look down. So
yeah, it's different out there. I remember because I went to the Dakotas from Kentucky, and it's wide open. It's kind of in the prairie, kind of around that Black Hills area. So you got a lot of prairie there. Mm-hmm. And man, I tell you what took me a long time to get used to was the wind never quit blowing, because there's not a bunch of trees out there. It takes a while. You don't think about stuff like that. The wind just constantly howling.
Yeah, you start seeing all those wind farms and stuff out west. Like we've been to Colorado a bunch of times, and the first couple times we went out there, you just saw, you might see just a few turbines, and then each year it seemed like you'd see more and more and more. And last time we went that's probably like 3-4 years ago, but there was thousands of them through Kansas City and eastern Colorado. So that just lets you know that there's a lot of wind over there.
Oh yeah,
in that area. Got a comment from Phil there. He said he caught some fish on the Cumberland Pro jig down in Kentucky. So
nice.
Were you on Kincaid today, Gabe?
No, I was in the Mel truck.
In the LLV?
Yes, in the LLV. It was a long day. I'm a little bit out of Mel shape. My right leg's a little bit sore from pushing the gas pedal and the brake, all day long.
You still got that jet lag. You've been on What time zone is that?
Well, that's what's
Mountain
weird.
Time or is it?
No, it's yeah, it was Mountain Time. But we flew out to Las Vegas, which was Pacific Time.
Yeah.
And then we drove into the Mountain Time zone and stayed there for 5 or 6 days, and then we drove back to Las Vegas to take off and flew back in to our time zone.
So that's got to be confusing as
It was
crap for your flights and making sure you get there on time. And
yeah, it was weird.
That's why you got Crystal, right?
Yep.
Well, you did phone updates.
Yeah, it does. It updates.
So
yeah, I don't trust technology though.
You can't beat the technology, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty handy. So just to remind everybody, tonight we will be doing a giveaway, and if you're new to the giveaway, the way that works is sometime during the live stream, we will make a reference to Sasquatch, and when we make that reference, guess a number between 1 and 200, and whoever guesses that number, which Isaac already picked the number and we got it written down here, they're going to get a really nice Cumberland Pro package. It's going to include what are we giving away tonight, Isaac? Let them know.
We're going to give away a whole set of either the new pig jigs or the new Bama swim jig, and they can either pick in the flipping jig. We've got a 3/8, a half, or a quarter, or a 3/8 in the swim jig. But we're going to give away a whole set, so it'll be 7 jigs.
Nice.
Either which one they pick, and then they can just let me know which size they want, and we'll send them out.
Okay, so one of each color, and then a specific weight.
Yeah, and they're brand new. I mean, they're not even at Tackle Warehouse yet. We haven't even got them hooked up in there, so it'll be kind of a sneak peek kind of deal.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I don't even have any, so it's new.
I know. I know. I couldn't give them to you before I gave them to the fans, right?
That's right. That's right.
Fans first, man. Fans first.
Fans first, man. Yeah.
So first question I got written down is how did you start? How'd you get into the industry of, making jigs and lures and that kind of stuff? What's the background on that?
Well, it's kind of a long background, to be honest with you. When I started originally, when I had the idea that I wanted to kind of get into this, I actually started a kind of a do-it type company, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. Or I was toying with the idea, there's tons of those companies out there. And so I started messing around with that a little bit. And I did some research online in looking at custom companies, and pretty much everybody was selling the same kind of deal. There's nothing wrong with that. But, I'm like, man, it's going to be hard to compete when the only real difference that I can offer people would be a color or a hand-tied skirt or a bandit. You know where I'm going with that. So I actually got hooked up with a guy from there, because I was like, man, I don't want to kind of be stuck in the group, And I got hooked up with a machinist, and he actually started machining some molds for me, so like hand cast type molds. And I fooled with those for a minute, and then I found a better way to do it, with the spin cast type equipment. And I started that moccasin, as you know, Gabe. Mm-hmm. And we pushed on that. Went to ICAST a couple times. That company was growing very well. I got an opportunity to purchase Cumberland. And at that time, it was during that COVID rush, like we were talking about previously. We were wide open. I didn't have time to keep pushing the other brand. And I wanted to kind of focus all my attention on Cumberland. But that's kind of the long and the short of how I got into it. It's a tough business to get into, to be honest with you. It's a very tough business to get into. But man, I love it. It's great, Has its ups and downs like any business, but I really enjoy what I do.
So when you come up with like an ideal for a jig, what is the process of getting it from paper to actual production? How's that work?
Well, I come up with an idea, and then, we work with a company that builds molds for us. We send the idea to the company, and then we go through a process. They use computer systems now. They used to just file them real old school and build the molds off of basically masters that were filed and shoot. I think they shoot 10 to 15 depending on what the mold's holding. But now they use computer systems, and so they'll tweak the pictures and they'll say, hey, is this what you want? Is this what you want? We'll go through the process on the computer program kind of deal. And you see some of the photos. Have you ever seen one of the photos, like one of the gray back photos that I put up of a jig before it comes out? You ever seen one of those on my social media?
I think I have. I think you've sent me something in the past.
Yeah. Well, those are from that computer. You know what I mean? Those are basically the rough outs. After that, we switch over to basically the prototype stage. And so then we'll go through the prototypes until we have it, because looking at a computer screen, you can only get so close. You're like, I think that looks good. But when you get it in your hand, sometimes it doesn't look like you think it would look. But you go through the prototyping, and then they shoot, and then they build the molds for you. And that's pretty much it. It's not an overly complex process now. The guys that we work with, they build tons and tons of molds, and they're the toughest part about it is letting them know, trying to translate what's in your head to something that's the actual shape. Trying to get on the same wavelength is probably the toughest bit.
Yeah.
But once they kind of understand the idea, it's not tough. Because that's the toughest part is relaying what you're trying to do. But once you get that, it's pretty quick.
I could see having that vision in your head, and it's just
trying to
relay what you're thinking. And it doesn't matter if you're making jigs or a widget, whatever you're making. It's tough to get that even if you're sitting there, your best friends, your long lost
and I
friends.
suck at drawing, so
yeah.
So when you draw something, I'm like, no, it doesn't look at all like that. Don't you see the drawing? And they're like, I don't know, buddy.
What's the how many prototypes do you typically go through before you give them the thumbs up?
Generally anywhere from 1 to 3, typically closer to 3, sometimes 4. But I think there was only one bait that I hit that it was dead on, just perfect with the first one. But that's not typically the case, because there's always some kind of tweaking, or the something's not sitting right on the hook, or the weed guard angle is off a little bit. But what's nice though is working with those guys as long as I have now, it's nice that they kind of know how I want something set up. So like smaller issues such as weed guard distance, like they already know what I want. So that makes it a lot easier when you kind of have had a relationship with the people. So they kind of know how you're thinking or what you're looking for. And they kind of, is that making any sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So kind of behind the scenes, does the folks that design your molds also pour and
they don't design the molds. They build the molds, but no, they don't pour.
Okay.
They don't pour for us. Yeah, we do all of our own spin casting. We basically build everything from the hook up. They do manufacture for a lot of companies. I think they told me one time 400 plus. And pretty much if you see it on an aisle, they probably have manufactured some part of that. But no, they don't manufacture for us. We try to keep our price points competitive. Good prices for everyday anglers. And a lot of the reason that we can do that is because we're manufacturing, so we're not paying, for every detail we're not having to pay for, such as, flake and any kind of added. We're not having to pay real extra on that.
Good. That's kind of where I was going with that, to make kind of iterate that you guys are doing everything yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And we're even building skirts right now, unfortunately. We normally get the skirts. We come up with the patterns and we buy them. We get them built to the specs that we want them. But we're building them right now with these new products anyway. But man, building skirts it's rough. That's rough.
That's tough work, isn't it?
Oh man, it's
work. Fun when you're doing it for yourself. You're
but
producing them for yourself, but not for the masses.
Right.
Yeah, no. It's not fun for the masses, but I love playing around with skirts, coming up with new colors and stuff like that. I really enjoy it when I don't have to. You know what I mean? What I mean is like no stress kind of deal. Like if you're just playing around, it's a blast, you know. But when I'm like, man, I need to come up with some more colors, and you got an idea like what you want, it can be frustrating, you know, when you're trying to get something done and you kind of have like a time limit in place. But doing it for yourself, I love doing it. I love messing with a lot of that rubber too. I like rubber a lot. It's a lot of work though, messing with that rubber.
You got a bunch of people on here that have been using some Cumberland Pro products, and
that's awesome.
Nothing but good stuff to say about it. I would have to agree. Doug, man, it's good to see. I haven't talked to Doug in a while.
Well, you're blocking the comments if they don't like it, right?
Yeah, we delete everybody that has a negative comment. We just shoot them off of here.
Yeah.
Daniel's throwing the Apex underspin.
Not only do we block them, I mean, it's blocked from the entire channel, never to be back again.
Banned. Yeah. Get out of here.
We run a tight ship over here.
Hey, we're fortunate. We do have a moderator tonight, so
that's good.
Oh, there you go.
Stephanie wants to know what bait do you sell the most besides jigs? I'm assuming jigs are the #1 product sold.
Well, jigs would be the #1 product sold because most of what we sell is jigs.
Right.
I tell you what, man, I don't know if I want to answer that. You know what I'm saying? That might not be good for me. We sell a lot of underspins. I'll go with that one. We sell a lot of underspins. Underspins are a big mover for us. Everybody throws an underspin. I mean, it's a great bait, year-round kind of deal.
You don't have to tell everybody that everybody throws an underspin. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I've done enough videos on it that people know. I mean, that's one of my favorites, man. It's
an underspin and a shaky head. Shaky heads too. Underspins and shaky heads. Everybody's got them.
Well, and you think about it, those two baits, for me at least, the shaky head, I lose a lot of shaky heads. But you can throw it out there. They're fairly inexpensive. You can break them off, and you're not out a bunch of money. When you break off a $3 or $4 or $5 jig, that hurts a little bit more. When you break off a $25 jerk bait, it hurts a lot. So
you need to go fish the gate and break his off.
It won't hurt so bad. He's pretty. He locks that box up before I get in the boat, and I can't get in that box. So
yeah, I don't have $25 jerk baits. I think I have 3, maybe 2.
Well, it helps to have the auto Trieve too.
That's true,
because you don't lose hardly any.
That's
jerk
true.
Baits in.
That's true. That
those
auto
shakies,
Trieve.
I like the shakies a lot in the wintertime. Shakies for me are kind of a bait that I really like to throw when I just can't get bit. You know, I go to that shaky. In wintertime shaky head fishing, you can catch them on a shaky head. You can catch
That's your jam in the winter too, isn't it?
I love a finesse shaky head. That's when it's cold. That's one of
the
only things I can get bit on is like a finesse jig and a light shaky head in the wintertime. As far as something on the bottom, you know. But
I like in the wintertime, I like the little 5-inch. I think they're 5-inch. Gabe, you probably know this, but the Zoom finesse worms.
Yeah.
You ever throw those like little 5-inch deals?
Mm-hmm.
I've also started messing with the Yum ones. You ever thrown the Yum finesse worms?
I have not. I haven't.
Man, the action's really good. Forget about the zipper on the bag; it's going to break the Ziploc deal.
You are 100% on that.
Yeah,
but they make a great shaky head worm. The action's really good. It's almost like their plastic's a little more supple. It holds up really well. I'm not sponsored by them.
That Zoom Fish Doctor is another good one too. It's just a little 4-inch centipede that it's like the ultimate finesse shaky.
Whose centipede is that?
It's made by Zoom. It's called the Fish Doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Chompers has one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think anything in that 4-inch kind of centipede shape, in the wintertime is just deadly.
Yeah.
It's good for those the old ball and chain too.
On a Carolina rig?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Like a light.
Yeah.
2-aught.
I like I like that 5-inch worm because I will use a spinning rod, but I like to throw stuff on a bait caster if at all possible. I got a really nice rod that's perfect for that. That the action's just it's dead on, but I can't go too crazy light with it. Yeah, obviously because it's still a bait caster, but.
Yeah, here's a question from Oliver. He says, when designing a jig, is it more important to stay different in comparison to other companies' products, or do you focus on making the most productive and efficient product without any worries about others?
I
know you like to make different stuff.
Is what
Yeah.
No. In the past, I have built some baits before where I'm trying to appease the customer, so to speak, or a trend, and it might not even be a design, more like a hook size or something like that. That's more popular. I have done it in the past, but to be dead honest with you, I don't do that anymore. I've found because everybody hears that there's almost too much information out there now, and so you're like, well, it's a general purpose that everybody wants this size hook or, whatever it may be, something like that. So you'll say, well, obviously, because you have to make a living. And so you'll say, well, let's run with this hook. That's what's more popular, whatever. I don't do that anymore, though. To be honest with you, I think I do a lot better. If I'm designing a bait and I just build it for what I really envision it to be, or in what I'm really excited about, it seems to do a lot better. So I don't really worry about. I'm not really worried about what other people are doing. You know what I mean? Now, to a degree, you can't get away with building something nobody else has, in essence, because like tank like the new pig jig, right? Great jig head. We did put a lot of characteristics on that head to make it very unique, but it would still go into an archy category. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's very different than vast number of jigs out there. I mean, it's completely unique, but if you had to classify it, it would be an archy-esque type spin-off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge of designing this stuff, because when we look at a jig, you can say it's a football jig, or it's an archy jig, or it's a ball-headed jig, or it's a swim jig. They're all there's a broad category, but the hard part for you is to put Cumberland's stamp on it and say, this is Cumberland's swim jig.
Well, yeah, but it's more about like, what do I want to fish with? And that's a dumb answer, but like that, yeah. I'm a jig nut. So like, I want my jigs to be perfect. You know what I mean? Right. And we've designed quite a few number of jigs. And so I know what I want in a jig when I build it. I know what features I want in it. I know what I want it to do, what hook size I want to go with, what general profile I want it to end up at. The weed guard thicknesses. So I mean, it's all very unique, but it's not. I'm not just pushing to say, well, I want to sell something unique to somebody else. I mean, because honestly, like y'all are fishermen, and if you build if you have like a Me Too bait, you're not going to be excited about it. You know what I mean? And then if you have like anytime that you're going to spend the money to build something, you want it to be unique, either the way that it looks, and the way that it handles, because you're building it to do a specific type of job.
Well, and like you said, most things are that you build are because there's not something that exists in the market today like that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You're trying
In
to
most
solve
cases.
a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. You're trying to solve a problem. And it's a funny balance because in kind of why I'll just build stuff like the way that I envision it. It's like I said, I do a lot better when I get really excited about a product, and I'm just like, man, this thing it's perfect. Rather than chasing fads or chasing, trying to be like, well, I think I'll sell more if I do like this or do that. I just want the product to do what it's supposed to do and what I envisioned it to do. But it's at the same time, you can't build a jig for everybody. I remember we were at ICAST one year, and I had a swim jig down there, the Omoccasin swim jig. Gabe, you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Flat bottom. You remember it? Yeah. Well, I took that down to ICAST. There's a bunch of Florida guys down there because a lot of the bait store owners come to ICAST and stuff like that as well. And man, I had a ton of people come up, and you remember that jig? It had a heavy wire hook in it. Nothing crazy, but it had kind of a beefy hook in it, which is kind of what I like in a swim jig. Not a light wire, not a heavy wire, just kind of somewhere in the middle. I had guys, the Florida guys, coming up, and they were like, "Man, these hooks are terrible," and they were like bending them, you know what I mean, flexing. I'm like, "What? How big a hook do you need?" You know what I mean? But they want gavs in their swim jigs. And then some of the northern guys, they're like, "Oh man, you need light wire. You need light wire in that jig. You know what I mean? And you need like 3 fibers in the head. So you can't build something for everybody. So at a certain point, you kind of got to build what you think is best or how you envision the lure to work. Does that make sense? Instead of just chasing everything, because you can't build something for everybody. Nobody's going to love everything.
You need to build stuff for the guys in the Midwest, not the North or the South.
Right in the middle.
just draw a line right down the middle of the country. That's where we're building stuff.
Well, the jigs that we're coming out with now, which my favorite jig hook size is a 4/0. I know a lot of people like a 5/0, and they're good, but I think a 4/0 actually comes through cover a lot better. It's more compact. You can put a full size trailer on it. You can put a full size, I like the old school chunks. You can put a full size, big salty chunk on them. The 4/0 versus the 5/0, I haven't noticed the hookup ratio difference at all. That 4/0 still sticks them, but it doesn't hang in cover so bad. So I really like, and the other added benefit with the 4/0 is it gives you that ability to kind of go one way or the other. So instead of instantly having to switch to different jig, you can downsize trailers. You can do a lot because you can still get that compact profile with that 4/0. So it's a little more versatile. I think they're better all around with the 4s. I do a lot better with them. I can adjust my presentation a lot more. And then the weed guard has a lot more effect because, as the weed guard gets longer, it gets lighter. I'm sure you've seen that. But that weed guard stays right. You know what I mean? And it's a lot tougher for me to hang something with a 4/0 than that 5.
I think there's a lot of trend going towards slightly smaller hooks. You start to hear a little bit of a buzz about that. Instead of having like a 5/0 flipping hook, a lot of guys are going to a 3/0. And I personally like a smaller hook on my jig, and that's just kind of from fishing the Cumberland Pro jigs the last couple of years. That Procaster jig's got a little bit smaller hook, and it does great. I got no issues. And like you said, it's not a light wire hook, and it's not a super beefy hook. So you don't have to worry about it bending out, and you don't have to just really crank on them to get penetration like you do a bigger hook. So I'm a fan of that personally, like a 3 to 4/0. It's like perfect size hook for me. Just from the experience. This jig right here, this is the Rockhound. And I pulled this out because you were talking about, trying to come up with something a little bit unique. And to me, I mean, this is a very unique jig. And I got some of these, I think it was last year, and they just kind of sat around. I'm like, it's a kind of a strange looking thing. What it's got is it's got bucktail. and it's got some living or some round rubber. Is that round rubber, Isaac? It's in there.
It's round living rubber.
Okay, and it's on a Procaster head, and it's got the wire weed guard, but it's an interesting looking bait, and I hadn't thrown it until I think it was February. I went down to Clearwater with well, actually I'd thrown it a couple times, but I hadn't really kept it in my hand. But I went to Clearwater and we were fishing for smallmouth, and I was throwing that. I think it's either brown and yellow or brown and orange, maybe green pumpkin orange. I'm not sure. I'm halfway colorblind. But anyway, this sucker really put some fish in a boat, like smallmouth. Smallmouth love this thing. Something about this hair and that little bit of round rubber. But how'd you come up with the design on this thing?
Well, it's tied on the Procaster head. But the design of it, we sold a bucktail previous to that one that was just the bucktail version. It didn't have any of the rubber on it on the old school Procaster head. So when we came out with a new Procaster head, we wanted to do something with the bucktail, but we wanted to make it a little more modern. Something else we wanted to do, we wanted to try to figure out how to give it some kind of a secondary type of action. And that rubber on top, it looks cool. Like
it's not much.
No, it's not much. It's about 7 or 8 strands. It's not a lot. Yeah. But when you get that living rubber, or the bucktail pulses in the water, it's got a real natural fluid action. But that bucktail is real, or the living rubber is real buoyant, so it floats up. So you get kind of 2 actions out of that bait. That's a cool little bait, man, and it is kind of one of a kind because there's a lot of there's nothing tied like that, but there's a lot of other bucktails on the market, in small little hair jigs. But the biggest problem to me is none of them have any. You can't fish them around cover. They don't have any, keepers to keep you out of trouble. But that one with those wire keepers, you can throw that thing in lay downs anywhere you want to go. That's a deadly little jig, man. I saw that video you're talking about with the smallmouth. You're crushing them on that thing in the tubes.
The tube, yeah. And I thought it was just a tube thing, but they were killing this little jig too. It was fun.
Yeah, that's a great little jig, man.
And I think you make one in a white too, and I think I'm going to start throwing that around, like stroking it, just like I would an actual hair jig, like the prayer jig. But around here, a smaller hair jig seems to work better for us. And so I think this thing in a white, just put like a fluke on the back of it, or a small swim bait or something on there.
Original fluke.
Yeah, like an original
grub,
fluke. Yeah, or grub or something.
Yeah, single tail grub, deadly.
Yeah, so I'm going to definitely be playing around with that coming up real soon, probably about end of May, first part of June. Yeah. It's coming.
I'm actually, so I'm looking more forward to that time of the year than I am like right now. What we're in is the spawn. Because the spawn's what, feast or famine. You either go out there and you crush them one day, and the next day you go out there and it's like, I'm not even on the same lake.
Has y'all's weather's been all over the place, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's
are they
it's been
setting
up
up
and down
good for the spawn, or is it not a great spawn?
I have a feeling they're all going to come at once. They were on bed. I caught them on beds like a month and a half ago. Yeah, with bloody tails, and then it just went desolate because we just get warming trend, cold snap, warming trend, cold snap, and we were out last weekend. We caught a few overs. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, you guys had pretty good.
We had a heck of a day. It was, anywhere from topwater to dragging something on the bottom, we caught them. But they were all up super, super shallow. So it was a super fun day. But I had a buddy text me Saturday, and he caught, I think, 24, 25 pounds at the lake that I was at, his best 5. And he wasn't even really trying. And everything was in less.
Was that Mikey? Or yeah, I saw that.
Less than a couple foot of water. So it was a good day for him. And then I couldn't go on Sunday. So, but
yeah, I saw that post when I was in Utah. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah,
that's how it is. Tom's got a question. Do you use different brand hooks in different products?
We didn't used to as much. The prayer jigs have always used Mustad hooks. Hold on. That's my back. All the other products have typically used gammy hooks. This past year, it's been really tricky to get a lot of the gammy hooks, and so we've been using some of the VMCs as replacements here and there, but they are still probably 85% gammies. But hook supply has been a real issue this past year. But the new pig jig and the Bama swim jig, they both use VMCs. That's a great hook. Have you had an experience with those hooks, Gabe?
Oh yeah. I've got a lot of VMCs. I've just recently started going to that VMC ringed hook. It's like an EWG, but it's got a little welded ring on it. Those are nice, man. I just ordered like 5 or 6 packs of those. I got some 4/0s and some 3/0s. But yeah,
VMC get the bait more action, just that free swinging action. Yeah.
Yep. Something about it.
Can you tell a difference?
I think. Well, right here, yes, 100%.
That's all that matters, right?
Right. And I think the fish gets less leverage. I think you're going to get more action, obviously, because that thing's swinging. And then the fish is not going to be able to throw it because it doesn't get the leverage. It's not twisting. It just makes sense.
And are you 100% pegging that then?
Well, I like to put a bobber stop on, and a lot of times I'll leave the bobber stop up just a little bit away from, the weight.
Mm-hmm.
But with the swing head, I really wouldn't need that, because the reason I did that before was to give, to not have it, to give it a swinging action. So, yeah, I think you can do it either way. Heavy cover, I'm definitely pegging it. But, they're pretty, but bottom line, VMC makes a really good hook. I agree with you 100%.
If you had to choose a hook just off the shelf, Gamakatsu, I would assume, would be number 1. What would be your number 2? Would it be a VMC?
I don't even know if gammy would be my number 1, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. They make a great hook. There's no doubt, but technology is so good now that there's a lot of people that make really good hooks. I mean, gammy makes a great hook. VMC makes a great hook. Mustads are a great hook. There's a lot of companies that make great hooks, in my opinion. Gammies are different. Like, their sizing's a little different. In Cumberland's traditionally we've used, even before I had it, it was always a lot of the gammy hooks, and I do like gammies, but I think there's a lot of hooks out there that are every bit as good, in my opinion. The gammies are really, really nice hooks. They're super sharp. But there's a lot of other hooks that are really good too, like the VMCs. I really like VMCs a lot. And Mustad makes some great stuff. But it's like with me, I do like the gammies, but the sizing is different for each one of those companies, if that makes sense. Like, if you look at like a 5/0 Mustad, it's a beast. I mean, it's got a big giant gap, like it's a monster. Gammies run a little smaller. VMCs are close to Mustads, but they're a little smaller than a Mustad. So they're all great hooks, and so depending on what I'm kind of wanting, it is kind of what I'll lean towards. But I'm digging the VMCs, to be honest with you. I'm liking those a lot. The gammy makes a great hook. There's no doubt.
I noticed that. I started pouring jigs a handful of years ago, and it's, gosh, like you said, it's you got a mindset of what hook you're wanting, and of course, you're ordering it. I'm ordering it either online or out of a catalog, looking at it, going, yeah, that looks about right, and then you get it in, it's like,
yeah,
that's nothing what I wanted. Right. That's way too big or way too small for my eye.
Yeah,
I mean, they all catch fish, right? But
yeah,
back to like confidence thing. I'm building a jig because I want it to look a certain way, not because I'm building a jig for it to.
Yeah, well, the diameters are different too on some of them.
100%.
Like that, like a gammy, like their standard wire, it's thick. I mean, it's a thick hook, man. And then sometimes like the shaky head's another bait. Our standard shaky. Now the mags have gammies in them. The 7/0 gammies. The standard shakies though, those are Mustad hooks. because we couldn't get the, it's got a vertical eye in it. We couldn't get that configuration in a gammy. And two, in that instance, you don't want a beast of a shaky head hook, right? And so with the gammy wire thicknesses running a little bit thicker, we opted to go with a Mustad. For one, we couldn't get the configuration. We needed to work with that head style. But two, it would have been too thick if we found it, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people probably disagree with that, but that's, I wanted that kind of a little, not a super light wire, but kind of on that edge is what I really envisioned for that. But with the head shape that we wanted to go with, which it's very similar to the mag, that was the perfect hook. So it varies, man. It just depends on what you're trying to do with it. I know originally we tried to go with just one company, but with the COVID stuff, it's a lot of companies putting there's no telling what hooks you're buying. You know what I mean?
Right.
We didn't do a lot of switching. We had a lot of stock on the gammies when all the hook shortages kind of came in, and like the underspins, for instance, like we didn't switch out the hooks in those. We've limited sales on them based on our hook supplies, but we didn't swap out the hooks in those. We try not to do that, or we'll send like memos out that, hey, this run might have a different hook in it just due to shortage issues, but we try to keep it original to what it was designed with. I missed that comment. Was that a good one?
It's Jim. He was just talking about he says the Arky head is the best head for multi-purpose, because you can swim in. He's talking about Steve Kennedy modified Arky head, and the issue he has, Jim's builds jigs and has in the past. He says no one makes the correct hook, and custom hooks are too expensive. So kind of like what we were just talking about, it's finding the right hook can be a little bit tricky. And have you
hooks are for real expensive?
Yeah, I can only imagine. Have you ever built like an actual jig around a hook?
Well, every jig's built around a hook. As far as like when I'm like coming up with an idea of what style head that I want to do, before I even get that ironed out, like I know what hook I'm going to use. So that's kind of step number one, because I want to know how it's going to sit on that hook, and where, depending on how I'm wanting that lead to be shaped, what hook's going to be best for that. Angles, what I want it to do performance style wise. But you can get, I think there's some great hooks out there. I really do. I really like that pig jig hook we went with. It's just a 60 flat eye VMC. That's a really nice hook, man. It's a really nice hook. I've been really happy with it. It fits perfect with the head that we went with. It's dead on. That's been a nice hook.
Is that a medium wire hook in that?
No, it's a standard. It's a standard wire, which a medium and standard probably close to the same thing.
Right.
But it's just a standard wire. I didn't want to go real heavy on it. I've got plans where I want to build one with a beefy hook, but it's a whole nother animal. This jig right here, I wanted a standard wire in it, so it's a beefy hook. You can see I don't know if you can see the diameter. Let me find. Oh, there we go.
Okay, yeah.
You see, and you see it on my fingernail. Like it's a beefy hook, but it's not overkill, because I wanted to build this jig kind of to do everything. Skip docks, heavy cover, just kind of a good all-purpose style type jig. And so I didn't
still
want
cast
to
that jig and set the hook with 40 yards line out.
Yes. Yep.
Not have to worry about it not sticking.
No. It'll stick them. In the weed guard we went with, it's a thicker. It's a 5/32. A lot of the jig guys will know what I'm talking about, but it's that larger hole size diameter, so you get more fibers. But we went with that medium fiber, so it's perfect. And we got it sitting. You can see it sitting probably an 1/8 inch, not even off that hook point. You see how close it is to the hook point?
Yeah.
So it's
right where you want it.
It's sick with it, but you got enough fibers where you can get Do what?
No, I said that's right where you wanted at. That weed guard's perfect.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let me see here. Oh, Andy said he donated a Cumberland Pro spinnerbait to the depths of Kentucky Lake. I call it donating to the fish gods. You got to do that every once in a while. It just keeps a good mojo in your boat.
Every once in a while. That's how you catch the big ones.
I like what you said about that jig and how close that weed guard is to the point of the hook. That's why I started building my own jigs. That exact reason right there. Because too many jigs are like this. And you know just as well as I do with being a jig nut, you make that cast to a lay down or to a brush pile and you skip it up underneath there and it goes whink. You're not getting it off, I promise.
It's gone. No.
It's gone.
No. Yeah.
So every one of my jigs when I build mine, I pull that weed guard down and I'll drill out that hole to set just perfect. So
yeah,
I'm glad to see that's how you build your jigs too. I know Gabe's gave me a handful of the Cumberland Pros, and I noticed that about.
Yeah, I'm weird about that. I hate getting jigs, which I fish with other people's jigs too from time to time. You know, I'm a jig nut, so I mean, I want to try them all, so to speak. But yeah, that's a huge pet peeve of mine is the weed guard just being half an inch from the hook point. I'm like, this one ain't gonna last long.
No.
But yeah.
So why? So explain why is that so important? You know, why is it so important to have
for the weed guard to be down on the hook?
Of the weed guard, yeah.
Well, two reasons. Like he was saying, it loops around a branch, you're done. You know what I mean? It'll hang up real bad in brush. Another reason, if you think about it, that hook is not going to contact the fish's mouth near as quick as if it's down on the hook point. So you're going to have to pull through that weed guard a lot more than what you would on one that's, you know, right down about an 1/8 inch off that hook point. Those are the two main reasons for me. But weed guards are, I would say, probably one of the more important factors on a jig. Just getting the right weed guard, because, man, I've seen some just great jigs, but they're either too soft or they're just crazy stiff, you know, where you just blow them out of their mouth or something. But the weed guard is really critical. I mean, it's a big deal to get the right weed guard. Wrong weed guard will ruin a good jig for sure.
Mm-hmm. TB says Cumberland Pro used to be 15 minutes from Somerset, Kentucky. Where are they made at now?
We're out of Georgia now.
Right. Gary, I have to agree with you. The Hawgz makes it really good. I like the 6 1/4. That's my go-to. That 6 1/4 Hogs Worm is legit. I caught a lot of fish on that worm last year. Actually, last 6 months.
Does he put salt in those worms?
No, they got a ton of action in them too. Ton of action.
They float, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
they're a super slow sink. Yeah, I like that. My theory is you can put scent on it. You know, leave the salt out and put scent on it. I tell you what, there's a new scent coming out, or that's been out. It's called Bait Fuel. Isn't that what it's called?
Have you tried it yet?
Yes. So
I haven't opened. I got 2 bottles in and gave one to Dad. And I haven't opened.
I just ordered some. I just got some from Omnia. They were out last week and they got it back in stock like 2 days ago. So I ordered some. It's on the way. So I fished that Kentucky Lake BFL, and the guy, my boater, that bait fuel's made to just put a little bit in their bag of worms or whatever and just kind of let it soak. Mm-hmm. Well, he had some in a bottle. Apparently, him and his dad and his buddy, they could only run across 1 bottle. So they each poured a little bit in a little medicine bottle.
They divvied it up evenly.
Yeah, they divvied it up into thirds, and he had a little bit, and he kept dipping his worm, and he was getting a lot of bites. And I'm like, what are you doing up there? He's like, that's that bait fuel stuff. And you know, I was getting a few bites, he was getting more bites, and finally I'm like, okay, let me dip my little. I was throwing a little baby brush hog. Let me try that. I swear I got more bites on it. So I ordered a bottle of it.
Were you using a scent?
I was not using a scent before you tried. I was not using any scent. No, normally I use like a Spike It marker, which is the garlic scent. I had left it at the house, and I know for a fact that he was getting a lot more bites, and I think it was because of that stuff. It's real gooey. It's like it
doesn't smell though.
No, it has I mean, I couldn't really smell it. We were talking about how it doesn't really smell. So It must be like an enzyme release, or I don't know what it is, but well, I bought a bottle of it. So I think it works.
I got a bottle of it, and of course, as fishermen, what do we do? The first thing that when you get a pack of Berkeley Max scent, what do? You open it up and God, that's rough.
That stuff's nasty.
That's nasty. So same thing with the bait fuel. I cracked it open and I'm downstairs in the basement. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Where's it at?
Yeah, man, this must be defective. So I grabbed the other bottle and went to doing my research. I'm like, this stuff doesn't smell. Like, why does it not smell? Well, that's the selling feature of it. If you spill it in your boat, it's not going to smell like 9 kinds of what in your rod locker when you drop it in there. But it's just like you said, it's an enzyme release. I don't know if it's something super molecular, whatever you want to call it, that's attracts them, but
I don't know.
I'll have to try that. I've always been a bang guy, and I put it in my soft plastics. I spray a little bit in the bag, and it just absorbs in. I mean, I'm sure y'all have done that too, but I'll be honest with you, I can't hardly eat garlic anymore, just from smelling that all the time.
Oh, the worst thing is when you're downwind from somebody. You're fishing 2 in a boat, and you're downwind from somebody,
and you got
it just goes.
Either you got like a bottle of soda open. Or I remember that was the worst. So when Bang, my brother got a bottle of Bang, our aerosol can of Bang, and he sprayed some of it. And I had a can of soda sitting in the back in the cup holder. Didn't think anything of it. Went to take a drink of it. It was like,
Get some fresh garlic
it was
on your
just
lips,
straight garlic. And the rest of the day, like you said, it's just right here all day long.
Yeah. Where your sunglasses?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It's awful.
Your graphs, it gets all over everything.
Big
Mike,
it's
Cumberland Pro Lures.
It's good stuff though.
Cumberland Pro Lures.
Bang makes a great product. I've used that stuff a long time. I'll have to try the bait fuel stuff. I've never tried it. There's so many scents out there. It gets. I mean, you can't try them all. Bang has always just been kind of the go-to because it's so readily available everywhere. And I've had good luck with it. But I'll have to try that bait fuel. That's pretty. That's pretty cool. It doesn't have a scent. I didn't know they had one out there like that. I've been seeing it. I mean, you're seeing it kind of everywhere right now.
Yep.
Yeah. But me personally, I'd rather have a bait with less salt and be able to add my scent to it. Kind of like what we were just talking about before we went on that bait fuel tangent.
Yep.
No.
Does it soften the plastic a lot?
What's that?
Well, when I use the Bang stuff and I put it in the soft plastic bags, I've noticed it softens the plastics a lot, and you get a lot more action out of it.
Okay, it might. I don't know. I haven't got any of it yet. We were just kind of dipping it in there and then fishing with it
and going.
Yep, exactly.
And I haven't. Well, honestly, so this time of the year, fishing up shallow like that, I really don't. I don't feel that you need anything because it's a reaction bite. I mean, it's flip in there, hop, come back out, flip in there, hop, come back out. So I wasn't.
Oh man, I disagree though. I think when they're on the bed and they're locked in.
Well,
I think the scent. It
was so dirty you couldn't really see the bed.
Yeah.
So
I like scent most of the time, but I'm a big I like the chompers baits a lot, man. You know how those are.
Oh, those are stinky.
They all come with a scent.
Right.
So.
You just got to bite those in half every once in a while just to make a man out of you.
Oh no.
You don't do any custom jig colors. Big Mike was asking.
Oh no, we don't have any custom jig colors. We order everything kind of in bulk, so it's not something we can really do. And we try not to make skirts if we can get away with it. I mean, we come up with the color selections, but we typically are trying to buy built skirts.
Whitewell says he's always looking for a compact swim jig with a horizontal line tie for smallies on the river, 1/4 ounce with a 2-aught or 3-aught hook.
Yeah, we put a vertical in ours. The problem with using a horizontal line, it's hard to find you can't hardly find a hook with a horizontal line that's a 30-degree. It's darn near impossible.
What would be the benefits over a vertical versus horizontal?
Well, they say verticals, it comes through grass better, a little bit cleaner. Flat eyes comes through timber without rolling as much. To be honest with you, I hear guys that swear up and down, oh, a flat eye is better, a vertical eye is better, or whatever. I mean, I've heard it so many times both ways. To to be frank with you, it's kind of, you know, what I'm trying to do. Like on the pig jig, we got that flat eye with the concept that it will come through cover a little bit better as far as like wood type cover, or rock. It won't wedge as bad as a vertical eye. But you know, you're talking about an overall maybe what, 1/8 of an inch. So does that make a huge impact? You know, and that's not much.
Somebody was talking, Darius was talking about, he's a big fan of the prayer jig on Kentucky Lake. And then Gary was asking what that jig looks like. So I've got one here. I'll pull it out. It's a nice jig. Let's see. So this is the prayer jig right here, Gary. It's a big old hair jig. What is, like 6-inch probably, I'm thinking? 6 inches worth of hair.
Yeah, no. Well, the feathers, everything encompassed, that lure is probably 6 to 8 inches, depending on the feather length, which it's a natural product. So it's, you know, they vary in length to a degree. It's got 4 bucktails on it, rubber, or 4 feathers, and then bucktail, and then some flash. But yeah, those catch some big ones, man. That's a really fun technique. Really fun technique. That's a great bite. And how I fish them is it's got a that one has a gammy. The standard prayer with the teardrop shaped head, that's got a 6/0 mustad in it. But the way I fish them, I'll throw them out there, you know, on whatever type of, around whatever cover, whatever you're fishing, you know, out deep. It's an offshore type deal. And man, I just crank that handle about 4 or 5 times, and you want it to kind of rip up off the bottom and then kind of just pendulum down. But in the bites you get, you'll go to hit it again, the rod will just load up, or you'll see your line just pop. It's a really fun bite. I catch some big ones on that too. That's a cool way to fish.
Do you put any kind of trailer on there?
But it gets expensive if you're around trees.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you put any kind of trailer on there, like a fluke or anything?
No trailer. Yeah, I saw Hank, you know, Baskey. I know he puts a fluke on them sometimes. I don't mess with them because the feathers, like, and that's a big looking jig in your hand.
Right.
But once it gets in the water, it's about the same size as like a Zoom Super Fluke. It's not. It looks huge, but it won't be in the water. But I don't put a trailer on it because that natural movement of the bucktail or the feathers on the back, that's the deal. So I never put a trailer on.
It gets about like that in the water. Everything, the feather gets wet and it gets kind of streamlined.
Oh yeah.
So it's got that shad. It's like a nice shad.
It thins down a lot, and then as you pop it and it kind of stops and goes to coast, it just kind of flares a little bit. Just from that natural flare of that bucktail. Yeah, that's a cool bait, man. That's a good one. That's a good one to throw midsummer.
I think it sneaks up on them when the bite's real tough. It's one of those baits that doesn't have a lot of,
it's stealthy.
Yeah,
super stealthy.
It's not like something that's banging and crashing and creating a lot of disturbance for their lateral lines. It's just more of a, hey, here's something in my face, I'm gonna eat it. So
and it's different because not everybody's throwing that. There's a lot of people that do throw it, but I mean, not as much as what you would say like some other ledge baits like big swim baits, 10-inch worms, footballs. They probably see that one a little bit less, but yeah, that's a deadly bait, man. And it you kind of get that same reaction, almost like fluke fishing, where it's just they got to go on it. You know, when it pops up, it triggers them. That's a great summer bait. I really enjoy fishing those in the summer. That's a fun one. That's a fun one. A lot of people think it's real complex, but that is probably one of the easiest baits in the world to fish.
Yeah, I fish it the same way. I throw it out. Let it sink to the bottom and just crank it 3 or 4 times and then let it fall. It's pretty straightforward. It is, to me, this thing really starts getting good post spawn when those fish start feeding up and they get out on the points and stuff. And you don't have to, you mentioned a ledge lake. You don't have to be on a river, you know, river, like Tennessee River or something, to get bites on these.
No.
Here locally in Southern Illinois, I've caught my fair share of fish on a hair jig like this. So it's something to.
Yeah, I'll throw them in. I river fish with those a bit, and I'll throw them in. You know how you have a river 5-6 feet deep, and then you have little, 15, 20-foot holes in there? Those things will kill them, on a river. So, yeah, you don't need just crazy deep water. I mean, you can catch them anywhere. I saw a comment. It does not have a weed guard, so you have to be careful around wood with it because it will catch wood.
Stephanie, that is the name of that scent is Bait Fuel. Is that right?
Bait Fuel.
Bait Fuel.
Like the thing that's going up, skyrocketing in price, fuel.
Bait Fuel. I know Omnia Fishing has some in stock as of last night. Bait Fuel. There you go. Thanks, David. I'm sure Tackle Warehouse has it, but it's kind of like they get it in and then it's gone. So you got
Bait Works.
Bait Works.
Bait Works is where I got mine from, and it was.
It's like $8.99 for 8 ounces, so it's not ridiculous. And the way it works is you're supposed to just put a little bit in a bag of plastics and just let it kind of soak in.
Marinate it.
That's right.
Hey Gabe, have you ever seen that? What's that little company? If you've ever tried this stuff, I saw it at a show one time. It was Crawcane. You ever mess with that? You ever seen that?
I've never heard of that one.
It's a scent.
Like you remember when? Yeah. It's like a crawfish scent mixed with some salt, but it's like a
Crawcane,
like a bottle.
Yeah.
You remember the tubes? How you would get the tubes, and the tubes look like they're just covered in salt, like real thick, like the old school kind of deal. It's like that. So you just sprinkle it in the bag, but it's. Do you know what I'm saying? You've never.
I've never used it. It rings a bell. I'm not 100% sure what it is. I was thinking of that smelly. What's it called? Smelly jelly? No,
smelly jelly. Yep.
No, not smelly jelly. There's another
smelly
thing
jelly,
like a tube, fish sauce, or it's like a tube, like a big thing of chapstick. Bait stick or
bait. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, there's
the KVD.
Doesn't Iconelli?
Yeah.
Iconelli or KVD's got something that
KVD.
Is it KVD?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
I've seen that stuff. It's like I saw a little commercial. They're putting it on crankbaits and stuff like that. It looks like a bait stick or like a glue stick.
Yeah, like Yeah, like a big thing of school glue. Liquid Mayhem is what I
that's right.
promote.
That's right.
Oh, Mike's on there. What's up, Mike? Mr. Mike Russell. I was just thinking about you today.
What pound test on your hair jig?
I like 12 pound tests personally. That's what I like.
Yeah, 10 to 12. 10 to 12.
I'm gonna have to agree.
And I throw that on this. I don't know what weight this was. I'm gonna find that package. But a lot of times I like a half ounce, a half to 3/4 ounce. And I'm just throwing that on like that half ounce. I'll throw it on a 7-foot medium heavy. Just like a 7-to-1 gear ratio, 12 pound test. You could do 15 pound test too. I think 12 to 15 is perfect. And then a little bit heavier weight, like a 7.2 to 7.3 rod, but medium heavy action, something with a little bit of tip. Because
I like a little bit of a soft tip. Though.
Same here. Yep.
Yeah.
Jim's got a question. Why not put a hole for an optional weed guard on the prayer jig?
In the prayer jigs?
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, we sell a lot of hair products. We sell bucktails, the rock hounds, the prayer jigs, in however many SKUs, and so we try to limit how much hand tie we're doing because it's time consuming. There is a company that has one. Y'all ever heard of BC Lures?
I have not.
Well, if you check out, I think it's Land Big Fish. I think he sells one that has a weed guard in it. It's great. He's a great guy. But I think he sells one with a weed guard. But that's the only one I've seen with a weed guard. Most guys with that particular technique, you wouldn't really want a weed guard because the bite, it's such a unique type of bite. I don't know that I'd really want a weed guard with that. I guess it'd be really handy if you're fishing around brush piles and stuff like that, but he does have one. It's called BC Lures at Land Big Fish, but I think he's got one. It may be a wire weed guard. I'm not sure if it's fiber or wire, but he makes one. We don't make one. We're we kind of have our hands full with hand ties, so we're not trying to necessarily add to the prayer jigs. Prayer jigs are a lot of work to build. That's a lot of tying.
Yeah, it is. I've tied a lot of flies in the past, and anytime you're working with natural fibers and materials, especially bucktail,
yeah,
you know, you got to stack it, and you got to get the length right, and then you got the feathers. It's a lot of work.
Well, with that fly in comparison, I always thought this would be easier because you got more to work with, right? This is harder for me.
It is easier.
Well, for me, it was more difficult. Like to get
Really?
your wraps right on all the big stuff, to get everything in there in the right spot. On a fly, it's just you got one strand or two strands of that to go on there. You're not trying to get a gob of it on there, if you will.
Well, to keep it from spinning.
Exactly. That was
the
thing.
To spin on the hook shank.
Roll on you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I just haven't mastered it, I guess.
Yeah, it's I've always liked tying because we used to make the floating flies. I don't know if y'all are familiar with those.
Mm-hmm.
Man, those were always a lot. Those are a lot tougher to me to tie the smaller stuff than the bigger stuff. The bigger stuff, it's like that's not a big deal. But that little tiny stuff, man, and then the bucktail, like that, you know, that's actual bucktail. But for like the floating flies, we're using like a belly hair, and that stuff's only, you know, maybe inch and a half long. Trying to cut it, and it's a lot tougher for me. I definitely.
And then you sneeze and it's everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I get it all over me.
The bucktail's not as bad. The bucktail's not as bad about going absolutely everywhere. You get the little bitty hairs that will stab through your clothes, or, you know, those burrow right through your clothes. The worst is the feathers, man, because at the base of all the feathers, they get the little, I don't even know what they call them, like the little kind of under feather, I guess you would call it, just float everywhere.
Yeah.
In feathers come in like these long strips, almost like a headdress, like what you would see on TV, like an Indian headdress kind of deal. So you're trimming them off of a long strip of feathers. Man, that stuff floats everywhere. You're breathing it. Yeah, I definitely like the. I'm reading your comment there. I definitely like dealing with the bucktail stuff and the larger stuff better, like the rockhounds. I don't mind tying that. Those are not terrible. The only challenging part with those is that weed guard, you know, getting around the weed guard, because you're kind of wrapping it at an angle, as you could imagine, trying to tie that deal with a weed guard, because the weed guard's in it. Obviously, they're casted in. So,
so Kevin was asking, is Clearwater a requirement for the hair jig? And
no,
I think
no.
I think at least, I mean, 3-foot visibility, or you think
some visibility?
Okay. What do you think?
Yeah,
3 foot?
I mean, you definitely, 3 or 4 feet is typically what I look for. If it's any dirtier than that, I won't really mess with it. But you don't need gin clear water to throw it. But I do look for 3 to 4 feet, typically most of the time, before I'm confident, because it's a sight type deal.
But you know, they throw it on the Tennessee River, and the Tennessee River, if you got 3 foot of clarity, I mean, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, I think 3 foot's a good, you know, is a good. I mean, you could go a really bright color. You know, you guys tie some with the yellow in it if the water's a little bit dirtier.
Yeah, but we got the chartreuse white would be a good option, but even still, I mean, I don't know. I try to just, you know, in different waters, different. I think, you know, as far as feeding fish, like if it's typically a dirtier water fishery, I will. Hold on. There we go. If it's a dirty water fishery and it just stays that way all the time, I think the fish will adjust to that, and so you might go a little dirtier and something like that. If it's typically clear and then it's gin clear and it goes to 3 feet, might not be the deal that day. It really depends on the fisheries and the water clarity. You know, what's standard for that area.
That's something I learned this winter with the live scope, forward facing sonar. And we had we had heavy rain in like late November, and it stayed stained. I'm talking like a foot of visibility throughout March. And something I learned is that even in that really stained water, those fish will move a long way for a jerkbait. I mean, I know there's sound, but if that water's been stained for a while, I think they're used to it, and they can see a lot farther than I thought they could. You know, I mean, even a swim jig, like reeling a swim jig in, they'll come 4, 5, 6 feet with a 1 foot visibility. So they're seeing it. They're picking up on it.
One thing I learned about you, if we want to go down that rabbit hole with
slightly
dirty water.
Oh yeah.
And live scope is fish don't sit on the bank when it gets dirty.
No, they're out in the middle. They're spinning too.
That was a huge like whoa moment for me. So
yeah.
That's a good one right there.
Where was that?
That's with live scope, man. That's crazy technology. How are you liking yours, Gabe?
Well, I like it, but I haven't used it much lately. Once the water warmed up. How you been
liking your live scope?
It's cool. I mean, I'm probably be using it a whole lot more coming up in the summertime for fishing brush piles and stuff. Once the fish get back out off the bank, I'll be using it quite a bit more. Kevin, that's a good point. That pig jig set and the Bama jig set, the Bama swim jig. We've got Isaac has set up what is it? Is it 7, all 7 colors? You can buy like a set if you want to just try all 7 colors of the pig jig or the Bama jig.
Yeah,
you can do that. You get that set up, which that's pretty cool. I like that idea.
Yeah, and the set's a little bit cheaper. If you buy all 7, it's like you can buy all 7 in one size, just like the giveaway we're doing tonight, and you can save a bit of money. I think the way the price works out is you basically pay for 6 and you get 1 free jig off of it. But I wanted to do that because, I mean, y'all online shop all the time, and you're looking at a color and you're like, oh man, I think that'll be right. But it's hard to tell until you actually get to hold that color and look at it. And we've done some different things with these colors. We've mixed some different colors into them, and so they're kind of different. And the reason that we did that, we mixed different flakes together with several of them because we wanted them to match up with several types of trailers where they're a little more versatile. How well can you see that, Gabe?
Can see it pretty good. Hold on, I'll put you on full screen, that way you can talk about it a little bit. Let me
yeah.
There you go.
There you go. But you see how it's got the purple in it? So you're thinking green pumpkin purple, but like this one has a green pumpkin in the front. It's got a green pumpkin with a red in it. And then it goes into a watermelon when it has red and purple and green flake, and then purple with green flake. So it's kind of a watermelon red, a watermelon red purple kind of deal. So it's not just your straight green pumpkin. So you can mix up your trailers a lot. And a lot of the colors are set up that way, where you can kind of switch around your trailers. You don't necessarily have to retie on a jig. You can dark them and darker, make them darker or lighter depending on what your conditions are. And this is a really cool color, man. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's kind of like, you see the blue? Can you see the blue in the skirt?
It's like
there you go. You see the shimmer?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got a little bit of a natural chartreuse and a little bit of a green pumpkin. So it's kind of a mix between like a summer craw type color and a blue craw type color. So you can do a lot with those trailers. But we worked really hard, man. The colors probably took, it was probably 2 months to come up with the colors, because we wanted to do some interesting kind of special kind of stuff. We worked really hard on the colors, though. The colors were complicated. I think some of the easier ones we had, like in the swim jig, we do have some that obviously don't take that much brain power to come up with. Like we got an all white. That's the Bama swim. That's the quarter, actually. We got that in an all white, and that's one of the simple colors. We've got an all black, and of course we've got black and blue, which doesn't take a ton of, everybody needs a black and blue. We didn't do anything funky with that, because people don't want you to mess with black and blue. They just want a basic black and blue. I can show you some of the cool features we put in these heads if you want me to.
Heck yeah, man.
Check them out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious about this jig.
Yeah, I'll show you what we did. In this, you can see the profile. Let me find the camera. There we go. Let me get it. You see it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just hold it still. Hold it still while you're talking about it, and then it'll focus.
I gotta move it when I talk, Gabe.
That's how this works, I'm the same way. I'm like this all the time when I'm talking.
Yeah, but it's a you can see the archy resemblance on this jig head, but we've actually widened it out quite a bit. We sold a pig jig before, had a really wide head on it, but it's still got those extra wide shoulders on it. It's got a 4/0 VMC hook, as we talked about. It's got the flat eye. We put a nice keeper on it, so it's got a nice bait keeper on it. The weed guard we went with, and this weed guard is perfect. And like we were talking before, this is a huge deal. It's got a 5/32 weed guard in it. You can see there's plenty of fibers there, but that's a medium fiber, so it's not overly stiff. But that's a great deal. And if you're in heavy cover, some people know to do this, some people don't. A lot of times I'll leave the weed guard just together. I won't mess with it at all. But when I get around really heavy cover, and Gabe, you should do a video on this, man. I actually spread them like that. I just kind of press them down, and I'll spread them out just a little bit. Let me find that camera. That's tricky, Gabe. Let me see. There you go. You can kind of see it. You see it? There you go. You just spread it out a little bit, and so when it's coming down, running past, you got a piece of wood running down past it. It doesn't just go into the hook point. It gives you a little bit of space there, so you can come through a lot heavier cover if you fan that weed guard like that. A really cool feature that we put on this, though, that wide head, it keeps the head flatter as you're coming through wood and rock, and so it keeps that hook point up as it's crawling, so it doesn't turn over, which keeps you from hanging up less and gives you a better hookup ratio. But another really cool feature, and this is a big deal. I got a used one. I'll show you the used one. Oh, I thought I had a used one. I don't see where that one went, good. But it's got a ridge. I don't know if you can see the ridge on the side of the head, but on the side of the head right here, it's got a very sharp ridge. And that works kind of, if you can imagine like a dirt bike tire where it's got a definite edge on it, and it doesn't like to rock past that edge. That's what that ridge on that head does. And when you can see how it works is when you fish a jig for a while, the bottom will get scraped up. Now this is powder paint, so it won't chip or come off. But you can see all the scratching on the bottom of the head if you're fishing rock or just dragging. And if you watch, that scuffing will stop right at that ridge. That ridge is huge to keeping that head running right and clean through cover. That's about as perfect as jig as I've ever made, though. That is a great little bait. It's got that 4/0, so you can go with larger trailers for a big profile, or you can trim it down and make it really compact at the same time. That's a great little jig. Really skips docks well. But that's a unique little jig, man. And we got 7 colors in it. I can run through some of the colors if you got time, Gabe.
I do. We got time. What color are you holding in your hand there?
This one was the candy blue crawl. So it's got that candy type color, the green pumpkin, and that little bit of natural chartreuse with that blue in it. And that's kind of a watermelon-esque with a little bit of a blue hue. That's one of my favorites, man. That's an awesome color there. And I showed you the purple already. You've seen the purple, and this is kind of a watermelon red candy purple. But it looks blue on the screen. But that's a great purple.
A little bit.
And you can mix that with watermelon red too. And then we've got some more brown type colors. In this is Carolina crawl, and it's got that metallic brown, almost like the naked crawl color. You know what I'm talking about, Gabe, with that metallic brown on top. And then it's got that pumpkin. I'm having a hard time finding the camera, but it's got that pumpkin green, which is kind of an amber type pumpkin. And then it goes into, I would call almost an avocado type color with an orange flake. And that is a really natural type color right there.
You guys on here, you're going to have to go to the Cumberland Pro Lures website and get a really good look at these skirt colors, because they're pretty, they're nice, man. They're
yeah, and the pictures don't do them justice. I mean, they're pretty. They've got a lot going on. and we wanted them to be that way because we wanted you to be able to mix up your trailer options with them, depending on what type of water you're fishing or what situation or what they may be biting. Another cool color, man, and I've been catching them on this. This is a smashed pumpkin. It's got a what color would they call that? It's like a what color do they call it? Smoke. It's like a smoke, which is a gray type color.
Yeah.
I don't know what the actual name for the tab color is, but it's got a smoke with some green and orange in it. And then it goes into a black with a fine green flake. And then it's got the pumpkin. That's a,
I like that.
Man, that one catches them.
That one's the best one so far.
Yeah. I've been catching them on that one, man. You've seen it on Instagram a lot. That's really been doing it. We also have the GPO color, which stands for green pumpkin orange. But it's got kind of a dark green pumpkin on the top. And then it goes into a green pumpkin, a standard green pumpkin with a red flake. And then it's got an orange, kind of your classic green pumpkin orange color with some red flake in it. Another
you don't
color,
see a lot of jigs out there like that, though.
Yeah. You see a lot of them. We want to do something different because we sell other jigs. We have some other green pumpkins, but I wanted to get the red flake in on this one. And another cool color we got, this one is called Blue Bayou, and it's got a black with a green flake in it, and that's a real fine green flake. And then it goes into kind of a green pumpkin watermelon with a blue hue, and then it's got a fine flake blue in it. But it's kind of like an Okeechobee type of color. But that's a great color too. But yeah, the pig jigs, man, those were some work coming up with all them colors. We have several in the swim jig too. I'm not going to go through all. I'll show you one. I'll show you my favorite one. How about that?
Okay.
We don't want to put people to sleep on here, but this is my favorite color. It's got some of that blue hue in it, and then it's got a little bit of it's kind of a darker chartreuse with a white belly, and that is definitely probably one of my favorites. And it's called Oshad. And then of course we have chartreuse shiner, which I know you've thrown that one a lot, Gabe, on the compact swim jigs.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. But on the head on this one,
yeah,
you can't really see with the light, but you can't see that head at all, can you?
Do you want me to change the light?
A little bit.
Switch the light up so you can see it. Hold on. Yeah, this fancy little light, man. Hold on a minute. There we go. Yeah, you can see it better now. You see the dimples on the head?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of a custom bullet type shape. So it's really good in vegetation and grass. On the weed guard on this one, we went with a 1/8 weed guard, medium fiber. So we dropped down from the 5/32 because you just don't need that much on a swim jig. It just needs to keep you out of trouble. And when you're moving a swim jig, it's not going to hang like when you're dragging a flipping jig or a football. But we've got a cool feature on this in kind of, going back to what we designed this jig for. If you've heard of the Alabama shake, Gabe?
Oh, yeah.
You heard of that before?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. We designed this with that in mind.
So what is that? Tell the folks at home what the
Alabama
shake is.
hook. Alabama shake, it's basically, in a lot of people, man, we've done shows, and I remember we did a show this spring, and I was showing off the prototypes at the East Tennessee Fishing Show, and I was like, man, have you heard of the Alabama shake? And they're like, no, that's the Tennessee something. You know what I mean? So there's names, there's like different names. It's probably where you're at is the Missouri shake. You know what I mean? Right. They use different names across the country, but it's basically, instead of just throwing it out and doing a straight retrieve, you're just pumping your rod the whole time, keeping that jig up, shallow at the top of the water, kind of like you would fish a kind of traditional style of a spinnerbait where you're seeing it the whole time. So you'll see your swim jig just pulsing. And the trailers I like to run when I'm using that technique is a kind of a chunk style. I love the old school chunks. But you can also use like flap and craws. I mean, there's a lot of different trailers you can use. But with that technique, you want something a little wider and bulkier, so it helps aid and keep that jig up on top of the water. You don't throw them real heavy.
Tennessee two-step.
Tennessee two-step.
Yeah. White whale fishing. Yeah. That I saw Hank dropped a video about that, about the Tennessee two-step. Y'all check that out. It's a pretty good video. But we built this jig with that technique in mind. And we wanted, when you're a lot of guys, some guys will thread them, probably about 50-50. The guys that are throwing chunks, they'll tip them. So they'll just tip it over the back of the hook like that. And so we wanted to keep it a little more compact. It's not near as compact as the compact swim jig that we sell with the wire weed guards, but it's got a 4/0 in it. It's a 30-degree turn on the hook eye. It's got a vertical eye on it. Something that we did specifically for that technique besides the 4/0 was the rattle, because when you're pumping it, it'll give a acoustic element to your presentation. And what's cool about that, the way that we put the rattle on there, it's on a flexible rattle strap, but we stretch the collar of the bait, because you can see where the skirt sits right here. We actually stretch the collar, and it actually has a place, and you can see the top groove above the rattle, so that rattle won't slip on you, but you still have a keeper there. So there's actually a place for the rattle, but it actually aids in the stability. Let me see if I can get this turned right. There we go. But you see how it lines up with the weed guard and below the hook?
Yeah.
So it keeps the weights balanced in the bottom of the head, which makes it more stable. But you just get a nice little rattle as you're working that bait back to the boat or contact and cover. It's something that they don't see that often. There's not that many swim jigs that have a rattle, but it's a nice little element. It gives them a different look. The dimples, like I said, I think they look really cool, man. I mean, that's why we put them on there. We actually did when we did the Tennessee show. People were asking me, because we were showing off the prototypes, and they're like, "Man, what's the dimples about?" And I'm like, "Man, they just look awesome." You know what I mean? And they're like, "No, you didn't do it for that." Like they make air bubbles and all kinds of, they were coming up with their own reasons of what they did, and they very well may. The original guy, there was a guy local, probably about 40 minutes from here. He had a little bait company, and he's since passed. The company's been closed for, gosh, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years now. But that's where I got the idea from. He used to dimple the heads, and his concept was that it created more water displacement. You know what I mean? But I don't know that to be true, and so I put it on there because I really like the look of it. It's very unique, and I'm not going to say that it creates bubbles or displacement or anything like that if I can't prove it. You know what I'm saying? But it's a really neat look. It's a really cool look. I like that look a lot. I always like that look, but his reasoning was the water displacement.
I
like that. That makes sense. It's got to be displacing something.
Well, right? it definitely sets that jig apart, right? When you pull that jig out, that it's a Cumberland Pro.
Yeah, it's the only jig on the market that looks like that. And that red rattle, man, that's a cool feature too.
Mm-hmm.
I went with the red rattle to kind of give more of a visual, because what was that? I read a study where red is like the most triggering color that you can have for a bass. Right. So that red rattle adds to that, and it looks awesome. That's a big deal too. I want a bait to look cool, but that red rattle adds a little visual. And it also it changes the color right at that hook point, so it gives them kind of an area to target. You know what I mean? That's a little different than the rest of the belly of the bait, so they can kind of hone in right on that area, which is right at the hook point.
That makes sense. Personally, on a swim jig for me, as far as trailers go, I'm a big fan of a Rage Menace and a small swim bait, like a 3 to 3.5 inch swim bait. And then if I'm going really shallow, if I'm throwing like a 1/4 ounce, like that limit out compact, I'll throw that in a 1/4 ounce up shallow, and I'll put a full size Rage Crawl on there, which is a lot of meat for that little jig, but you can slow roll that sucker. I mean, you can really, really slow, hold your rod, tip up a little bit and just kind of shake it. And it'll stay like in 6 inches to a foot of water. So that's like my trailers. It does. You can really glide it. You can glide it through the stuff. It gives those fish a long time to come up there and grab it.
I fished some of the I fished some of the raid stuff. Man, I'm always like on a mission when I go to Tackle Warehouse to like see which plastics I can get cheaper. You know, you know what I mean? I mean, the cost of plastics have gone up so much. I mean, I remember thinking, and you remember it wasn't that many years ago that you were like, man, $6 for a 6-pack. That's insanity. That's $1 a bait. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not that long. Now everything's $6. But man, I really like the net bait pack of chunks. I think they're more durable than they used to be. I don't know why, but I think they're a little bit more durable. And I really like the Chompers Twin Tails. I do really well with those, and they work on everything. That's been a great trailer for me. But the compact, you know, I've seen a lot of people throw big baits on there, and they might be doing like you're doing with the to try to keep it shallow and where it almost floats. But I designed that bait for like a little 3-inch swim bait, because you remember back in the day, all the swim baits were like, you know, now you have a million sizes, but back then there was like you could buy like the 3-inch or the 5-inch. And those were the only two sizes that were pretty much available. And all the swim jigs at the time, you know, even the finesse ones that were like full size, they used a lighter wire, but they were like a full size jig. I was like, man, we need to make a jig for that little 3-inch swim bait, you know, so you can have that tight little compact presentation, trim up the skirt a little bit. It'd be maybe about 4 inches total length for when the shad are small. That's a really cool little bait, man.
That's the compact swim jig right there, limit out.
Yeah.
This is one I've got a lot of hours on. This one. It's a smaller profile, and it does like a 3-inch swim bait fits perfect on there. Or even a minute scrub. If you bite a little bit of a minute scrub off of that, it fits perfect.
Yep.
Z Crawl Jr. works.
Z Crawl Jr. Yeah.
And what's cool about the wires on that bait, and some people are weird about wires. They're like, man, will that affect my hookup ratio? But the hookup ratio, man, if they breathe on it, they'll get stuck with the wires.
Better. I think it's better.
It's good in cover, man. It's a good bait in cover, but you can adjust them. But what's really cool about that swim jig, and I don't know if you tried it or not, Gabe, but you can turn the handle on your reel as quick as you can, and that thing just tracks perfect because it doesn't have the fiber to throw it one way or the other. It just that thing tracks perfect. That's a nice little swim jig.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. A lot of luck. That's a chartreuse shiner too. That's time in, time out. That's the color I go to for the most part. It works good. I like that ghost shad. Isn't it called ghost shad? The one that's a little bit more translucent.
Yeah. It's almost all translucent.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, that's a really good color, man. It's got a little bit of pearl in the belly, but other than that, that skirt's completely transparent. Really good clear water color. But I like that. I like that color a lot. I'll show you a crazy color, man, that we came up with, which I had this idea to do it for years. It's in the new Bama swim jig. It's called Houdini. You see that? Can you see it? It's got the watermelon or the green pumpkin with red flake, and then it goes into like a avocado type of color with an orange flake, and then it's a clear with gold flake in the bottom, like a light gold flake. That is a really cool color. And I was always looking for a way to come up with a Houdini. I just couldn't get it to. I couldn't come up with one that I really liked that I wanted. You used to see a ton of Houdini plastics everywhere that color. You remember that?
Yeah, Reaction Innovations. There's a lot of several swim baits that I throw that are Houdini color. It's a great color.
I've always done really good with that color, man, but it's kind of like you don't see it as often anymore. But I've always had great luck. It's kind of got like a kind of a clear gold copper type belly on it. I've always done really good with that color. But it's something else I was going to point about the swim jig. You know, we don't with the Bama shaky line, but it's still a swim jig. So if you can fish it any way you want. I mean, you can put a swim bait on there. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it is very versatile with the hook size in the rattle, which is absolutely removable too. You can pop it right off. You know, if they're not wanting that acoustic element at that time, or you're fishing really clear water, but you can rig anything you want and fish that swim jig anyway. We just kind of built it with that technique in mind, but you can't hardly fish that swim jig wrong. I mean, you can put swim baits on it. You can do straight retrieves with it. It's super versatile, but we did put some elements in there to make that technique, to make it really shine with that technique. You ought to do a video. Do you have a video on that, Gabe?
Is that a plastic or glass, the rattle?
It's plastic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's plastic. The glass rattles, man, I don't know if you ever, well, you've probably seen glass rattles, but they just got like the point on them where they almost, it looks like they almost drip them. And then the point, you know what I'm talking about? Where they just kind of drip and then they have the point on the top.
Right.
If that were glass, man, it'd be hard to get it to hang in there. And I'm always weird about glass. You know what I mean? It's like you bounce it off a rock and you're like, you know what I mean? If it's a glass rattle. There was a company, I don't remember what company it was, but they used to put a glass rattle in a bait, and it was like external. So I mean, you could hit rocks and stuff with it. I never knew how that would go. I like the plastic rattle better. The glass rattles are not as loud as the plastic rattles, and the rattles aren't as big. You know what I mean? I mean, they make different sizes, so it could be, but I like the sound I get out of that plastic rattle a lot better. And it's got a big. I'll pull one of them out, which everybody watching's probably seen them before, but like you see how it's got that big lip on top.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That keeps it from coming out. See, it's got that big ridge on top. So it won't, it won't come out on you, so it'll hold in place, which is, you don't want that rattle flying out and then have to go get a new one. But what's nice about those rattle straps, I don't have them break ever. Like they're super durable rubber, but you can buy them about anywhere, as far as replacements or whatever you want to do. But yeah, it's a super durable little setup.
What's up, South Jersey? Good to see you on here. You got you need to come up with a color like something called Sasquatch, like the Sasquatch color. That's
Sasquatch color.
You need to put that in your next lineup. Just like a limited edition Sasquatch color or something.
Well, see, Sasquatch isn't all brown.
They got brown ones. They got red ones. They got dark amber. Yeah, they got all kinds of mixes of Sasquatch. It'd just be like a bluegill color, basically. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, they're diverse.
You got a
diverse animal.
You got to get up on the Sasquatch, man.
I'll send you a link to a podcast. you can binge listen.
You were talking about a company that had a Sasquatch color. I don't remember which one that was.
You
remember that? I think it was one of your last lives.
I don't remember that, but they need one. They need to come up with a Sasquatch. I think
you mentioned a company that had a Sasquatch color.
It's probably out there.
I don't know what a Sasquatch looks like. What color they're supposed to be. Evidently, I thought they were all brown or something.
No, they even
like
have some white
ones.
ones.
Have all kinds of colors, huh?
There's some white ones out there. You haven't seen one in Montana? When you lived in Montana, you didn't see any out there?
I've never seen a Sasquatch, no. I swore I saw a panther one time, which we're not supposed to have. I know they have them in Florida. We're not supposed to have them here, but man, we were going. It's probably 4 a.m, and we were headed down, and there's this big river. You cross this bridge, but right before we hit the river, it's all wooded through there. And man, I swore I saw a panther, but you can't know what you see at like 4 a.m. in the morning. You know what I mean? It's there's no telling.
Yeah.
I've never seen Sasquatch, man. I love the shows though. I love the shows where they got the they go out and like beat on the trees and stuff. What was the name of that show? Sasquatch
Finding Bigfoot. Finding Bigfoot was a real popular one, yeah.
Yeah, but my question's like, what the hell are you gonna do if you find one? I mean, they're supposed to be like 8 feet tall or something, right?
Right. Everybody wants to find one, but yeah, you got to think through that process. What are you going to do? You can't outrun them.
You got to be committed before you go.
Yeah, you're not going to wrestle them.
You got to have a full sin moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Sasquatch. That's a. I love the show though. The Sasquatch hunting. Man, it just reminds me like that's like something you do in high school, like get a case of beer and go Sasquatch hunting or something. You know what I'm talking about? That sounds like something I would have done.
Like
I was gonna say you have to have that case of brew before you go do something like that.
Somebody left a comment on. I dropped a video of 4 people that were live stream guests that had Sasquatch stories, and one of the comments from somebody who watched it was, why don't they ever ask how much beer the person that saw the Sasquatches had before they had their encounter?
Or in Matt Steffen's, how much sleep deprivation do you have before you see that?
Yeah, but you know what? There's enough stories out there that you gotta. Yeah, I think it's one of those deals where until you actually see it, you're not going to believe it 100%. But it's just like a lot of things in life. You don't believe it totally until you see it.
I always think though. I'm like, well, they found the civilizations from thousands of years ago, bones and all kinds of stuff. And I've always wondered, like, wouldn't they find bones? I mean, they can't be that stealthy. You wouldn't think.
Well, apparently they bury their dead.
Yep.
Apparently they bury their dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't walk around and find human bones everywhere. Like there's.
Well, I hope not. I'm going to move if I do.
Exactly. We still don't have a winner, guys.
Yeah.
Unless I passed it a long time ago.
They told us in Missouri forever that we didn't have mountain lions,
or bears.
Yeah. Or bears. And they've been sighting. I mean, I saw a mountain lion like 30 something years ago, 35 years ago. Back behind in the Benton Creek golf course area. Mm-hmm. There was one back there that we saw once. Scared the crap out of us. We ran back home. But
probably the worst thing that you could do is take.
Well, it was from a distance.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if
it wasn't tracking you.
It wasn't
tracking.
Were
you faster than the guy you were with?
Yes, that's
all that matters, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to run if you're faster than the other guy.
That's right. I'm not stupid. I know that rule.
Yeah.
Man, alive. You guys are working hard tonight for the
Nobody's guessed it yet. This is great. But yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there. You go out there, you get up in Canada and Alaska, and there's just
how many
hundreds of millions of untouched civilization. There ain't no telling what's out there.
I think Canada's a big hot spot for Sasquatch, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
They got a lot. Did y'all ever watch the show that I'm talking about?
Yes.
Finding Bigfoot. I watched a little bit of it.
There's a podcast that we listen to that you gotta listen to.
I'll send you a couple of the most believable podcast interviews from a certain show.
Yeah, it blows that away. Hey, we got a winner.
Does it really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
White whale.
White whale.
He had some really good comments tonight, so congratulations, White Whale.
Good job, man. Yeah. Wow. I don't think I had your address.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Have y'all ever met him before?
No, but we've chatted multiple times. Yeah. Send me your information, Greg.
And I met him up in
he's an Indiana guy, I think.
I met him up in Ohio. Yeah, I met him in Ohio at the Columbus Expo one time. He's a cool guy, man. I met him up there. It's probably been a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel too. So if you guys are looking for some different content, check it out.
Yep.
Well, that was cool.
Columbus show.
Man, how many guesses did you have?
Oh, I don't.
Columbus show.
Yeah, it was rolling.
Yeah, I'm not counting them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes it takes 20 seconds, and then sometimes it takes
10 minutes.
3 or 4 minutes. Man, you just never know. That was a good number. A good number. So you've got all these jigs up on your site now, right?
I got them on my site. We're going to be working to get them with the retailers as soon as possible. They're not available there yet, but we're working to get them to the retailers. But I was planning on releasing them, and I talked with you about it. But I was planning on releasing them like early spring, like right at the crack of spring. And some of the components and getting everything together took a little longer than expected. So I put them up on the website because we don't typically have our website open. But I put them on the website because I was teasing them so long, because I want to talk about them. But then everybody's like, man, when can I get them? When can I get them? And I'm like, oh, I better put them on the website because, when you send them to a retailer, a lot of time, they got to photograph them and do all the computer work to get them up and going on the website. So.
See here, they've been finding tropical animals that are from Mexico and South America and the southern states in the U.S. that aren't supposed to be there.
Yeah, go to Florida, man. They got all kind of stuff in Florida. They got crazy
huge
stuff
snakes,
in Florida.
man.
Yeah, there's
pythons.
There's anacondas that shouldn't be there, and really messing with
they have
the Everglades.
Well, and then the fish too. They have piranhas and like those Oscars,
man, yeah.
The big Oscars that are freshwater.
Well, that was from the hurricanes when those exotic pet shops get completely wiped out, or somebody's got a whole collection of
whatever
endangered animals in their basement. Or I guess they don't have many basements in Florida, but whatever, they have all their exotic animals that get out, and then they get into our ecosystem and mate.
Yeah, and
you can't let your dogs out.
No, they got that. They got some they got some big lizards down there too.
Yeah.
I see people eating them. I've seen some YouTube channels that are eating them. I don't know about that, but they got all kind of stuff down there. It's wild. I heard the snakeheads. Have y'all ever caught a snakehead? Those things are a blast, man.
No, I never have.
Yeah, but I heard that they released those because in some foreign country they're supposed to be like a delicacy, so they released them to try to farm them or something like that. I guess I don't know the whole story, but yeah, they've got a whole slew of non-native species down there. It's a big issue down there for sure.
It's kind of like our Asian carp issue.
Snakes or something. Do what?
Our Asian carp issue on the Tennessee.
Do you have Asian carp down there? You guys have a problem with those in Georgia yet?
No. We don't. Not that I know of. We don't have any of those. We only got like the standard carp. I can't think of a ton. I mean, we have snakeheads in South Georgia. That's invasive, but we don't have the Asian carp yet. We don't have that problem. I've seen some videos, man. Those things are wild.
You don't want that problem, I promise.
Yeah, they're bad news.
No, they're doing a lot of work to try to get rid of them, though, right?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of work. It's pretty much it almost ruined Kentucky Lake. It's starting to come back now. The last couple of years, it's starting to get better, but it took a long time. They're kind of stalled out. I stayed with the guy named Lance Freeman, and he's a commercial fisherman. That's what he does. He has, I think he said he has like seven tow vehicles and 7 boats, and he's a commercial fisherman down there. And he says they're not getting a lot of young Asian carp. It's like something's going on where they're not able to reproduce. So you get a lot of them that are the same size, which is a good thing. So he's thinking that they're going to die out, that they're going to actually kill themselves out.
Which is a good thing for Kentucky Lake. It's a bad thing for Lance Freeman.
It's exactly because that's his livelihood. But
I watched
a bass fisherman at heart too.
I watched a documentary on it, and they said that when the fisheries are kind of struggling, they really seem to blow up. But they've seen them in some fisheries that are good fisheries, and their populations never seem to explode like they do when the fisheries are bad. So I don't know if there's something to do with the water, or I don't know what the deal is with that. But
I don't know.
I've seen some.
Kentucky came out of one of its best years, and then the Asian carp.
It's got a lot to do with, as far as the way they reproduce their eggs. From what I understand, their eggs fall to the bottom of the river, and then they have to roll so many miles to incubate. So there has to be a certain current. If it's too fast, it's not good. If it's too slow, it's not good. It's like there's certain flow that they thrive in, and for some reason they haven't been getting the right flow. So it's been screwing up their reproduction, which is great. So at least it's good to know there's a way to manipulate what the eggs need to reproduce.
Unfortunately, they're in the Mississippi though, and that's where
in the Illinois River.
started.
Yeah, anything that touches the Mississippi,
they're in.
They're in. It's just the way it is. So
when are we going to see some of those river? When are we going to see some of them river videos, Gabe?
Yeah, we talked about that. I don't know. You heard anybody fishing for bass in the river out here?
Off of the Mississippi? Yeah. Not here.
Not here. North, of course.
Like St. Louis area. I've got a buddy that fishes had a buddy in college that fished
like the Merrimack.
He would. I think they would launch on the Mississippi and then hit some of the backwater sloughs. Mm-hmm. But kind of back to that same point with the Asian carp. It's called the diversion channel, which is it diverts all of the water come out of all the fields and then it flows into the Mississippi River. That used to be a decent little fishery for spotted bass and largemouth here local. And it was I think that shoot area isn't it no wake or 10 horsepower?
Where what
that diversion channel?
Oh yeah,
at that
10 horsepower.
Yeah. So we could run it in all of our small boats, and you'd catch some rough fish, some gar, some grinnell, things like that. But you'd also have a decent population of bass. And once the Asian carp got in there, it's almost dangerous to go out there and even try to fish it. Now there's a spot or upstream from that, which it's a small creek or river that still has some decent fishing at certain times of the year where the Asian carp just don't travel that far. There's too many rapids to go up and over. Not saying that they're not in there. It's just not the dense population where it's, 2 miles from the river. But that has really kind of put a damper on that. What we need to do is get a jet boat and go fish some of the really isolated creeks that you can't get to.
They get in those creeks. It's got a lot to do with the river level has to be at a certain level to have the right amount of water, to fish those creeks and stuff.
Yep.
But I know there are certain. But as far as being out in the actual Mississippi River,
you won't find me fishing. I've only been out there a handful of times, and I don't like it.
No, it's sketchy. I remember going. We used to fish all the time for blue cat, and my buddy had a 17-foot bass tracker with I think he had a 70 horsepower. But you go up by Cape Rock. Cape Rock's just north of us, and it's a real deep hole. The river drops off to like 60, 70 foot, I'm thinking. And there are whirlpools. I mean, like straight up whirlpools and just drop offs. Like the water would just drop a foot or two. And you'd go up through there and you just, your boat was shifting back and forth. And it was super sketchy, man. It was super sketchy. As long as you're going, you're okay. But to get off pad and just kind of drift, I think you disappear.
Start spinning.
You just start spinning and probably get sucked under.
I've heard some horror stories about the Mississippi River. I've been out there a handful of times, and I remember my first experience. We were white bass fishing, and we were running down the river, and we literally went like running fine, no big deal, and then we were like 8 foot to the right. And I looked at my buddy who was driving. I'm like, "What'd you do that for?" He's like, "I didn't touch the wheel."
Yeah.
The river just picked us up and moved us over 8 feet.
Yeah, it just shifts. It's doing this. It's
at
weird.
That point, it was a pucker. There was a lot of puckering going on at that point.
Yeah. There's got to be some old guys out there that run it all the time. Don't think nothing about it.
Well, I look back and I got a buddy of mine that I hunt with quite often, and his dad and uncle ran the river in a 14-foot John boat with a 7.5.
That's pretty ballsy.
Horse outboard.
No way.
Like that's where they would go back in sloughs and duck hunt in the wintertime. In the wintertime at that. Just like it was nothing, but they didn't, you didn't have anything else. That's how they got around. So.
Probably no life jackets either. They're just going for it.
Yeah. Just
living on the edge.
That's right.
So that's an element of danger, that's for sure.
Yeah, I saw 3 guys in a little 14-foot John boat out in front of the river wall a couple years ago.
Really?
Yeah, it looked like there was 4 inches of water.
Well,
4 inches of boat showing.
So for the folks that don't know, it is ripping past that river wall.
Yeah.
Ripping.
Yeah, it's a big river. It's a big, nasty river. Got lots of dikes, lots of current, lots of whirlpools. It's not I don't know. It makes me nervous. And there's people that kayak. I got a buddy, Ken, that kayaks down that thing.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Nope.
They'll go on little kayak trips.
Nope, and nope.
So.
Yeah, them kayakers go through some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. I think as long as you're moving. Yeah, I don't know. As long as I got someplace else to fish, I'll
I'll stay out of that river as long as I can.
There's got to be some big ones in there because I'm sure a lot of people think that there's got to be some good ones in some backwater.
It's good white bass fishing. I've heard of getting on the backside of those dikes and stuff and catching white bass, but it's mostly catfish. Yeah. You know, that's catfish and drum and buffalo and carp and stuff like that from what I've gathered. Sturgeon, there's some sturgeon out there. There's some eels. I caught an eel one time, like a 6-foot eel.
Did you really?
Yeah, right at the river wall downtown.
Really?
Yes, no kidding. And you talk about a hard fight because you get them and then they go back. Oh, you can never make ground on them, and they're a heavy. I guess it's a fish. I mean, it's a fish, but dense. They're rubbery. You can't grab them. They're nasty.
We have smaller ones here. They're all black. They're probably a big one's probably about 3 feet long. And we were fishing one night. I was fishing with my brother and somebody else. I don't remember who, but I hooked one, and I didn't know they were in there prior to that. And man, I dropped my rod. I took off out of there. I thought I had a snake. You know, when I pulled it up because we were fishing, and they don't fight like a normal fish. Like the ones around here, they kind of ball up in the water and just kind of spiral around. And we were fishing off a boat ramp, and I pulled that thing. You know, it was dark at nighttime, and pulled that thing up on there on the boat ramp. I was like, oh no. That's where I knew they were in there. But I actually fish if you fish like a black and blue or all black jig with like a 10-inch jelly worm, man, you catch some nice fish in there doing that. I think they think it's an eel, and you would think that, you know, with that long a worm on the back of a little jig or something, that they would just, you know, short strike it, but they just go for the front of the bait just to kill it, you know. Mm-hmm. A really good hookup ratio, but you catch some big ones. Y'all throw some eel baits in there, man. You never know. They work good around here.
We have it's called a lamprey. You know, it's I don't know, most of them are like 6 to 8 inches long, and it's a little eel looking thing. Yeah. And it looks just like a 5-inch Cinco, like a green pumpkin Cinco or a yum dinger. That's what it reminds me of. Yep. So I think that's why they eat a yum dinger. I think it's a little baby eel of some sort.
Phil says we're
missing out. I think they'll eat those eels.
That one I caught was like a real dark olive colored, the eel that I caught. I think it was just an American eel, but it didn't ball up. It fought. You know, just.
You said it was 6 feet long?
Yeah, maybe not 6 feet. You know, I was young, and I'm a fisherman, so anywhere from 3 to 6 feet.
It grew up.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a bull shark that was recorded in St. Louis?
I think so. That was a long, long time ago.
Yeah, but that means it swam past Cape.
That's true. That is so true.
So,
got Mikey Balls on here. What's up, man? Well, cool. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap this up? Yeah, he does, man. One of my favorites for sure. One of my favorites.
Man, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about eels now. I think we've covered everything, and Bigfoots. I think we're there.
We did Sasquatch to Bigfoot to eels. Yep. Everything in between.
It's a Cumberland Pro. I mean,
it's a Cumberland Pro.
We wrapped it all up. That's all you need to know.
Let's see here. What's this? It's Kinko 13-inch worm. I just bought some. Did you know they have a 8.5-inch power worm?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I was like shopping last night. I knew they had a 7 and a 10 and 12.
Have you got that king worm? And
somebody else knows about that worm trick there. Do you see that comment?
Yes.
There was a comment about somebody else doing that.
Right there, man.
It works. I was talking to a guy one time in Louisiana, and he was fishing a tournament, and it was you know, when I had the other company or whatever, and I was like, dude, tank a 6-inch Zoom lizard and put it on a jig. You know what I mean? It looks crazy, and man, he caught some really good fish. He actually won a truck
Really?
throwing a lizard on a jig. Yeah, we won a truck. I mean, just crushed him. I think it was on Toledo Bend, and yeah, it's crazy, man. You throw all kind of stuff on a jig.
Well, a full size
Sometimes you
brush
do really
hog, like a brush hog, a full size brush hog is a good jig trailer as well.
Yeah.
Anything that increases the profile of the jig.
Yeah.
Daniel T's got the right idea. The new Cumberland Pro colors, Sasquatch eel.
Sasquatch eel.
Yep. Sasquatch eel. Yeah, the pork eel. I remember that, Phil. Remember Uncle Josh used to make a pork eel? They made that pork like a pork O, I think. They had a weedless hook that came with it, like the pork O hook.
I still got to try the new. I still got to try those new chunks, man. I haven't tried those new pork chunks. Are they as good as the old ones?
You know, I don't remember the old ones. It's been so long since I fished them. I don't remember exactly how they were. People have told me they're a little bit smaller. Like the new number 11's a little bit smaller than the old number 11.
You haven't had enough time to have the lids like rust shut on you where you can't get them open yet.
No, they have a plastic lid now.
Oh,
yeah.
See, they're not even.
It's technology. It's technology.
They took care of that problem. I still got to get some of those and try them. I'm looking forward to trying those out, man. I kind of missed the window. I probably throw that more in the winter time.
How long until you see a rattling bladed jig?
Oh man,
do they not have a rattling bladed jig
when
yet?
The patent runs out.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I think he means for Cumberland to bring out a bladed jig.
Oh, there you go. There's a new bait.
Yeah, we probably won't make one. To be honest with you, and this is just my opinion. Z-Man makes the best one, in my opinion, because I like how they attach the blade to the head. And with the patent in place, you can't, without getting sued, you can't attach that blade directly to the head like Z-Man has it.
Right.
But to be honest with you, that's not really a direction I think we'll go, because you got to imagine when that patent runs out. I mean, and they've been running it forever, but when that patent goes out, there's going to be just a crazy flood of them, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's I don't know. It's I think Z-Man makes a good one, so I don't think I should make one.
I tend to agree with you.
Nice.
They keep coming up with new ones from other companies besides Z-Man, and they're not any good. I mean, they're okay, but they're not. Yeah, they're not a Z-Man. They're not a jackhammer. They don't run the right way.
Yeah, and like the problem that I found is with the chatterbait styles, if they're not connected to the head, they don't fire off right away.
Right.
And so by the time you're coming through that strike zone, if you're fishing shoreline cover, by the time you fire it up, you're probably what would you say? Probably a foot and a half.
Yeah.
From where you're really trying to target. So it's just I like the Z-Mans, man. I like the Elite though, because it's a little bit cheaper. What is it like $9 to $11 somewhere around there?
No, it's like $6.99 or $7 something.
Yeah, even better, man.
That's my second best one.
The jackhammers are cool, man, but they're proud of them. You know what I mean? And if you fish around wood at all, that's a little sketchy for me to throw that $20-some bait around wood. You know what I mean? Chances are I won't get it back. But the Elite, I like the Elites a lot.
They do start up faster, the jackhammer, and you can run them a lot slower. So you're paying for that. But yeah, you will lose them in the wood for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, man, it's been.
I don't know about the.
It's been about 2 hours. So let's wrap this sucker up, man. That was fun, man. We went through a lot of stuff, covered a lot of material. The new jigs are awesome, man.
I learned that Sasquatches are different colors.
That's right.
I never knew that.
Just not a brown and green.
You got to send me the link on that podcast.
I will. Yeah, Sasquatches are just like jigs, man. They come in multiple colors. Multiple colors. Yes.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, I'll send it your way, man. All right, cool. Everybody on there, go out and check out the new jigs from Cumberland Pro Lures. Good stuff, man. we will be back same time next week. Have no idea who's going to be on here, but we will come up with something. And thanks for everybody for staying on
Get
here.
Mikey Balls back on there, man.
Yeah, we need to get him on here again. That was fun. He's a good dude.
Yeah,
really good dude.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, man.
Full of energy.
Yep. All right, we're out of here.
See
guys, have a good evening. We'll see you next week.